Hello and happy midweek greetings from Radically Rational and radicallyrational.com. And as always, we do invite you to visit radicallyrational.com, where we flesh out a lot of these things. So we'll start today with a brain teaser. Who do you think has a bigger problem? Trump with his lawyers or his lawyers with Trump? Interesting. Yeah, the lawyers have a problem because their client is a lying, amoral mobster. And when you think about this is very perilous for these lawyers because ultimately we know how this works. The lawyers will be much more likely to do hard time than will Donald Trump. So you're having a hard time keeping track of all these witch hunts? I mean, it almost requires a flow chart. I may go to Walgreens and buy a poster board like I do during football season just to keep track of all these things. So I'm wondering a couple of things. What is the bag limit on witches these days? And when does witch season end? And this is interesting. It seems like every day a different one of these looming possible indictments takes center stage and takes the spotlight. And right now the high beam is back on the Mar-a-Lago classified documents scandal, which it is. And the reason is there could be some major national security implications here, and at least one judge is thoroughly unamused. So let's keep track of it. There's that. Then there's Stormy. Then there's Georgia. Then there's Jan 6. Then there's Russian money laundering. And yeah, that's a deal. Yeah, that's a deal. And then there are some additional looming financial scandals, rape allegations. So what is the bag limit on witches these days? That poor guy, people just picking on him. Okay, it's too bad there wasn't any real drama in the finals of the World Baseball Classic last night in Miami. Are you kidding me? You could not have written a better script. So here we go in the top of the ninth, Japan leading the U.S. by 1. There are 2 outs, and we got a full count with Mike Trout facing Shohei Ohtani, 2 Angels teammates. It couldn't be more perfect, and Ohtani wins it on one of the nastiest sliders on a 3-2 pitch you could ever see. Ohtani says that was the best moment of his life. I bet it was. That was quite something. So, yeah, you'd have to say that the World Baseball Classic, despite the injuries that occurred to Major League stars like Diaz, like Jose Altuve, you'd have to say that it was a rousing success. So Japan wins its 3rd World Baseball Classic championship, and the United States is no longer the defending champion. Wow. All right, I got to give them credit. After starting slowly, the Cowboys are now on a real off-season roll. In fact, I don't have any problem saying that the Cowboys have done more to better their roster than any other team in the NFC East. We haven't even got to the draft yet, but so far you'd have to say that the Cowboys have won the offseason in that division. A couple of pickups yesterday, pretty good. Former Chiefs running back Ronald Jones, he kind of got buried on the depth chart in Kansas City, but he is a talented player, and he'll provide a lot of good depth behind Tony Pollard. And keep in mind, the Cowboys still have until July 17th to work out a long-term deal with Pollard if they can. They get an offensive lineman, Chuma Edoga. He replaces Connor McGovern, who, as you know, is on his way to Buffalo. And think about this, the Cowboys have done a great job of retaining their defensive players. In fact, they will return their 5 leading sack artists from a year ago. In the meantime, Philadelphia is bleeding defensive players. So advantage Dallas Cowboys, and that's before we even talk about those 2 big trades. Wow, you get Stephon Gilmore, one of the greatest cornerbacks not only in the game, but maybe ever. And you get Brandon Cooks, that smooth wide receiver, veteran wide receiver, and you get him from the Houston Texans, and you only have to give up a couple of middle round or late round draft choices. This has been a spectacular offseason for the Dallas Cowboys. So right now, I'd have to say that star is shining pretty brightly, but I'd also have to say this. That means it's no excuse time heading into the 2023 season. All right, so Cam Newton, he'll be 34 very shortly. He says he's still one of the 32 best pro quarterbacks on earth. I disagree. But he is one of the 64 best. So if he wants to continue and resume his career, that's all going to hinge on his willingness to be a backup quarterback, and that could be a problem. Case Keenum is back in Houston, and I failed to note that. I think that's a wonderful acquisition. He can be the caretaker quarterback and also mentor whatever quarterback the Texans will take with that number 2 overall pick in the draft. You know, I don't know how much stock I put in these mock drafts, but more and more every day, people are projecting that the Texans are going to take Bryce Young. I've got some misgivings about that only because of his slight frame. He is a very talented player, but I'm not totally sold that that's the best fit for the Texans. We'll hope for the best, but that right leg injury suffered by Paul George, the Clippers guard last night, that looked absolutely gruesome. We'll hope that things turn out better than that, and certainly we'll know more as the day moves on today. The Spurs are now 19-53. I said 19-53. And one more thing, a friend of mine and I were talking about this the other day. For sports fans of my generation, almost every day brings yet another blow to the spirit. Willis Reed, hombre, we are radically rational.